I want to introduce Paul Maguire. Paul Maguire is the engineering manager for the regulatory operations staff of the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada, the PUCN. As engineering manager, Paul is responsible for overseeing the PUCN's pipeline safety program as well as its water and electrical engineering divisions. Paul has worked for PUCN for approximately 22 years and has testified in numerous high-profile cases during that time period. Prior to joining the PUCN, Paul spent 10 years working in the mining, pulp, and paper industries, which included working at mining properties in multiple countries. Paul has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Lakehead University, which is located in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, as well as a master's degree in business administration from the University of Nevada. Paul holds a professional engineering license in both the state of Nevada as well as the province of Ontario. So with that, I turn it over to you, Paul.
Perfect. Is that the clicker there? All right. Welcome. I want to thank Heath for inviting me to talk. All right. I'm really excited to present the data from our first annual leak survey requirement. But I'm going to walk through how we got there. I want to thank Southwest Gas and NV Energy. They provided the data. So I'll get into it. Standard disclaimer, I don't speak for the commission. Sometimes I don't even speak for myself. But any opinion is mine. It's not my commissioners. It's not my director. It's usually just mine. Okay, just things you normally go and do yearly. You know, everybody sees the dentist or should see the dentist every year. You get your oil change, you replace your batteries and smoke detectors, you check your credit, you get your doctor, you file your taxes. So if you just get thinking, okay, you know, I'm just over 50. I get to play senior pickleball. Really excited about that. But if you're sitting there and you're 50 and you say, what would have happened had I just went to the dentist 10 times in my lifetime? You know, because the current leak survey is 5 years. Just imagine, you know, I have relatively good teeth, but I think, yeah, they probably wouldn't be that great if I only went once every 5 years. So, you know, the current requirement is 15 months for business district, but it's 5 years for outside of a business district. And transmission, and I think Paul talked about this, it's 15 months, but you don't need to use leak detection equipment. You only have to use it in these areas. The class 1, class 2s, you can still do vegetation surveys. You know, business district versus non-business district. Implied in 192 is that it's acceptable, just by the way the code is written, to have a 5 times greater chance of a leak going undetected in a residential area. You know, the fact that, well, I got to do this one every year, this one I got to do every 5, somebody decided that risk of 5 to 1 was a reasonable risk to have. You know, maybe in the 70s that made sense. You know, a lot of residential was served from low pressure areas. But now, you know, LDCs bring 60 to up to 100 pounds right to people's homes. No longer is it quarter-pound systems serving residential areas. And then one of the big issues is 192 doesn't define what a business district is. It leaves it open for interpretation. So why did we go to our commission and say we need to do annual leak survey? It's not, you know, some people think, well, you're the government. You just sit there. What regulation am I going to draft today? What mandate am I going to impose? This was about a 5-year process of looking at data, looking at incidents, collecting information, and then we finally said, okay, this is the right thing to do. I'm going to start with, there's no consistent definition of business district. So our largest LDC, Southwest Gas, you know, as we were getting into it, they defined business district differently depending on which state they were operating in. Well, you know, so it got me thinking, okay, well, that doesn't make sense if a business is a business. Well, no, you know, and the answer, and the honest answer Southwest Gas gave was, well, Arizona haggled over their definition. They wanted a tighter definition or a more stringent one, so they have one, and, you know, you guys didn't haggle over yours. Okay, so that's interesting. we were doing an audit, and this question came up about, so I'm doing a little bit of time lapse here. This is out in Henderson area, if you know Las Vegas, and there's a Costco being built. So the Costco gets built. You know, how many people go to a Costco? 10,000 people on a Saturday. So we were looking at some leak survey records, and we said, well, this isn't being leak surveyed annually. Well, that's not a business district. Oh, what do you mean it's not a business district? Well, no, it doesn't become a district until the Hobby Lobby shows up or the In-N-Out Burger. Until you get a second business, it's not a business district. Okay, well, yeah, I guess I can see that, but, you know, if I have 10,000 people going to Costco, I need to really add the 500 that go to Hobby Lobby to require the annual leak survey. So that really didn't sit well or make sense to me, but like I said, the code didn't really, you know, each operator is free to define business district as they want. So, you know, now it's a business district because we have all of these other businesses, but, you know, the risk isn't that much different than when it was just the Costco. Then we had the 2019 University of Nevada incident. This was not a regulated incident. The university was doing some boiler upgrades in one of the dorms. You know, I don't know exactly what happened, but he was changing some stuff out. He went to light the boiler. It didn't light. The little fan that's supposed to disperse the gas wasn't working. So when he relit it, there was a bit of an explosion. It knocked off the 5-pound line to the boiler, and the dorm started filling up with gas. Luckily, he pulled the fire alarm. 7 minutes later, the dorm went up. Everybody was out. No issue. This is just some of the aftermath. But it got us thinking, as we were talking to NV Energy on this, was this a business district? Well, no, it's a residence hall. Yeah, but there's 700 kids living in this building. Yeah, but it's a dorm. It's not a business district. Although we do leak survey it annually, it doesn't fit our definition. So then what, you know, so it's July. Kids are showing up in August. They've paid their tuition. They've paid their dorm fee. Okay, the University of Nevada's got to house them somewhere. So they go down and they rent out a tower at Circus, which is about a mile. If you've ever been to Nevada, it's about a mile from the university. They slap Wolfpack Tower on the side of it. Well, now these kids live in a business district. It's the same 700 kids who lived a mile up the thing that didn't warrant an annual leak survey. But because we moved them down here and we slap a sticker on the tower, they get the benefit of an annual leak survey. So, you know, that started to also not make sense. And then my wife's a school teacher. So she's a second grade teacher in Carson City. So I was out doing a leak survey of one of the schools. So this is the business district map that Southwest Gas had. And then you'll see there's a little bit of business here. And now I'm going to overlay the Google Earth of it. But I just want you to watch. There's homes here. You know, there's a church here with homes here. So this is how, you know, they define this business district. And I'm sitting there saying, well, hold on. There's a playground right here. This home butts up against the playground, but that service isn't leak surveyed, even though. So I really started to think, well, you know, can you really tell where the business districts start and end? And over here, we had a lawyer shingle and a hairdresser shingle. So just in these residential homes, somebody had, you know, I'm going to do hair. Well, okay, so they're getting an annual leak survey here, but the house next to them might be a home daycare. You know, who knows what it is, but they're not getting it. So, you know, that was an issue too, is these business districts are really hard to define. Same as the church here. You had all these homes around the church, but, you know, they weren't being leak surveyed. It was just the mains and the services that were in this little zone. Vegetation surveys, like really, this is the 21st century and we're going to do vegetation surveys. You know, do you know how much gas is emitted before trees and grass start to die. I don't, but I'm assuming it's a lot. And if you have kids, you remember the Lorax, somebody's got to speak for the trees, that they shouldn't be dying for us to know this is something we need to do. And, this whole thing came down on Section 114 of the Pipes Act that mandated emissions reductions. So as a state, I've got to go out and talk to a small master meter operator and say, hey, you need procedures to minimize your emissions. Meanwhile, we got big interstate companies that can do vegetation surveys still. That didn't make sense. And this is another one. Who pays for leak survey costs? So I know there's a Con Edison guy here. If you're an LDC and you go and ask your rate design people, who pays for leak survey? I think you'll be surprised. In Nevada, residential customers were allocated about 50% of all leak survey costs. Okay, I'm paying 50% of the tab, but I'm only getting 1/5 or 1/3 of the service. Well, does that really make sense? Because, the business is getting leak surveyed 5 or 3 times more than me, but we pay the same amount of bill. And, I have a commissioner that hates the word subsidy. So, residential customers were providing a benefit to business. Well, if I'm paying the same tab as you, shouldn't I get the same service? That's just common sense. So here was our regulation. It was really simple. It just says any person who operates intrastate, we're not interstate agent, we can't supersede PHMSA's jurisdiction, but for any intrastate pipeline in Nevada, the leakage detection survey must be performed once per calendar year at 15 months, and it has to use equipment. Really simple. We just took a piece of the transmission rule, added it to the distribution rule, the 15 months and the 1 year, and we included the leak detection equipment on all. So if there's an intrastate pipeline in Class 1, you still have to use leak detection equipment. We became the first state in the nation to require it all. It was a triple win: improves safety, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and it produced jobs. You can't farm out leak survey. It has to be walked in your state. So it was a triple win. We knew these regulations were coming. I think everybody knew it. So, we were actually ahead on that. This is big too. No operators oppose the rule. I think some people said on some of these rules are getting 27,000 comments, 1,200 comments. We didn't get any comments. AmeriGas questioned the applicability a little bit on LPG, but after we had a conversation with them and said, well, your O&M procedures require you to have the permanent bar holes every 20 feet anyway, so the fact that you got to drop the probe in the bar hole every year as opposed to every 3 or 5 years, how is that burdensome? So they kind of dropped it. Southwest Gas and NV Energy, who serve 99% of the customers, they supported the rule. And the annual cost was somewhere about $4 to $6 million statewide. And this was big. We supported the utility saying, well, we haven't been in for a rate case yet, so if you make us mandate these annual surveys, our costs are going to go up, but the rates don't collect that cost. Okay, that's fine. We have regulatory mechanisms to do that. You can defer those costs and collect it when you come in. And with that, they were fully on board. So now the data. So, we passed the law, we mandated this stuff. Now let's look to see if we got the benefit out of it that we thought we were going to get. Okay, so this is the law. This is essentially the Las Vegas Valley. Southwest Gas had typically broken it up because they were on 3-year surveys. They were doing 3-year surveys to match the atmospheric corrosion requirement. So, we're gonna do these ones 1 year. We're gonna do 2. Then we're going to do 3. So how we had them do the data was, we're going to do it all, but I want you to collect the data and account for it as if you were going to do these areas so that we know what we're collecting in terms of year 2, year 3, year 1 data. So we're going to do it all, but if this pod or area wouldn't have been done for 3 years, we're going to collect those leaks and account for them differently to see what the benefits were. So here's the data. And these don't mean years. These means the years that area would have been surveyed had they continued on the 3-year survey, but we did it all. So if you look at it, they found 135 grade 1 leaks in tiles that wouldn't have been leak surveyed until next year, but for the annual leak survey requirement. And they found 70 hazardous leaks in the tiles that were just leak surveyed the prior year that would have been 2 years out. So the way I view this is there's 205 incremental grade 1 leaks that we found that otherwise would still be there. But for somebody calling in an odor complaint, those hazardous leaks would still be there today because Southwest Gas is now would have just been ramping up to the 2024 study or the survey. And you can see we found some grade 2s and we found some grade 3s. So that's southern Nevada. Now, if we move up north, this is northern Nevada. I don't know if you know it, but Southwest Gas's service territory extends from about Elko, essentially down I-80 into Carson City and into South Lake Tahoe. And it's essentially everything but Reno, Sparks, and I'll get into that utility a little later. So same utility, different geographical area, different weather, few similarities, but some differences. And how did that data come out? Well, in that case, it was a huge benefit because look at the grade 1 leaks we found in those years that wouldn't have been surveyed but for the annual leak survey. So we found 22. So unlike the Southwest Gas one where you could say, well, the benefits diminished a little bit in that 3rd year. In this case, they didn't diminish at all. They actually went up, meaning we found 10 grade 1 leaks in areas that were leak surveyed in 2022 that we essentially did back to back. So now we move to NV Energy, which is the LDC Berkshire Hathaway company up there in Reno. They're an electric/gas utility, but their gas footprint is much smaller than their electric. It's essentially just the area of Reno Sparks. So, and what did their data show? So this is important. This is different utility, different composite makeup of pipe and stuff, and actually different leak detection equipment. They use the Heath RMLD, where Southwest Gas uses the DPI. So we're getting different technologies, different procedures. They do their leak survey in-house, so different personnel. And what benefits did we see there? Well, very similar. So this is the tiles that would have been done. These are the tiles that we moved ahead 1 year, and then this is the tile we moved ahead 2 years. So again, there was big benefit in that 2nd year. You can argue, well, the benefits subsided a little bit in that year 3. Yeah, they did, but we still found hazardous leaks, 16 of them, that would be out there leaking today, but for somebody calling in an odor call. Their grade 3 leaks look a little higher because the way they provided the data, that included leaks that were found that allowed via tightening and that. So those wouldn't all be DOT reportable leaks, but that's the way they provided the data, so I just left it that way. So, clearly there was benefit in doing this. It's not like, well, you passed these regulations, we went and leak surveyed and we didn't find anything. We found, significant amount of hazardous leaks. This was in November. I didn't have the December one when the report, but, we didn't have any incidents in 2023. It's not just because of leak survey. There's a lot of things that go into having no incidents. There's luck, there's excavation damage, there's operators' response. But, the fact that we passed it and we didn't have any reportable incidents in one of the few states that didn't, I think is somewhat telling. The other thing we did that the benefit is we found a lot of coil leaks, customer-owned yard line leaks that don't get reported in the utility data, but have the potential to cause an incident. So, they found an additional 100 of those leaks on customer-owned piping, which would have went undetected had we not accelerated the survey. And I'm just going to end with, I saved this text. So in Nevada, our operators are allowed to text us on state reportable incidents. Not federal reportable incidents, but we didn't have any. So on state reportable incidents, they're allowed to send a text. And when I got this text, I just saved it because this is why we did what we did. It says, good morning, a leak was found on a half-inch PE service installed in '92. Evacuation criteria was met. That's why they're reporting it. They had to evacuate people. There are 2 outages and repairs are in progress. The leak was discovered by Heath during a leak survey of the LSR3. So that is the zone that wouldn't have been done for 2 more years, but for the annual leak survey, which is an incremental area located in North Las Vegas, major cross streets, blah, blah, blah. So when you get that text and you say, okay, here's a leak, it was hazardous, we had to evacuate people, we found it because of this rule we required, I thought that was pretty good. And that's all I got.
Did anybody have questions?
Right here.
Thank you for sharing that data. It's really informative. The question I had, are you also looking at metrics for emissions, the impact of the reduction of emissions as a result of detecting these leaks? Because you seem to have a safety focus, but I didn't hear any data on that part.
Yeah. I don't have anything quantified. The fact that we found that many more leaks, and I don't have the DOT report yet, but typically as a state, we only roll over, I can count the amount of carry leaks we have on 1, if not 2 hands. So I don't, but I guess once we know how many leaks the utility carried over, we know how many leaks they fixed, somebody could do some of the voodoo math smarter than me to come up with an emission. It's really hard because I don't know, how much these were emitting. I guess we could make estimates and things, but clearly there's a benefit if you found all those incremental leaks and you fixed them. And remember, some of them would have been out there for another 2 years, not found on a 3-year survey. And our operators were doing 3-year surveys. And if we found that many benefits going 3 to 1, just imagine if you were going 5 to 1, how much more benefits you would find.
Can you give us some idea of the different levels of leaks, concentration-wise, level 1, level 2, and level 3?
All I can tell you is what the operator has for procedures is, grade 1 is deemed a hazardous leak. It's either very close to a foundation, it's resulting in reads that meet their criteria. Most of our operators follow the GPTC or whatever guidance on grading of leaks. So I don't know exactly, except for the fact that, those grade 1s were deemed hazardous, meaning there was an immediate risk to life or property, so they needed to be fixed right away. The grade 2s and grade 3s that they found didn't meet that criteria, so they were put on a list. I think most operators regrade the grade 2s every 30 days or something, and then the grade 3s are every year, if they get to every year, because, like I said, if I totaled those up, maybe they found 600, 800 leaks, but they don't carry those over. In Nevada, our operators fix the leaks. They don't typically carry many over.
I assume this is all state-of-the-art pipe. Is that correct? Or
No. I think, Southwest Gas has been around since the 60s. NV Energy's been around since the 60s. Because we leak surveyed it all, it runs the gamut from pre-code steel to early vintage plastic, which would be your PVCs and your aldolays, to some M8000 early vintage, more some of the more modern PE to brand new stuff. See, but I would say, a great concentration of it is probably in the 80, 90s and 2000s. Nevada grew big in the 90s when Vegas boomed. So, but I don't have a percentage breakdown, but it does run the gamut from the 60s all the way through the newest stuff.
But nothing that would force them to survey other parts of pipe that you would have included in your study at a higher interval rate?
They were leak surveying their PVC pipe annually as part of their DIMP program as they were replacing it in some of their aldelay, but it was a small percentage of the total body because most of the PVC and aldelay is already out. They had a commission order to get it all out by the mid-2020s. So, it maybe makes up 1% of their system. So what you're seeing there is more modern stuff, and you're still seeing a huge benefit.
Thank you. Has the state of Nevada asked the operators to submit their pipeline safety management system plans?
No, but we've had the discussions with them, whether they're implementing SMS or what parts of SMS they are implementing. That is something we discussed, but the commission hasn't taken an official role or rule on that and mandated it. But what I will say is the fact that our operators didn't fight us on this and just said, look, we agree there's a big benefit here. As long as we don't lose money on the implementation, we're all in. That to me, I don't know where in the SMS hierarchy that fits, but I know it fits in there somewhere, the fact that they were willing to do it, because they had to ramp. And the big thing was we gave them 3 years to ramp up. When I look at this PHMSA rulemaking and they say, okay, we're going to do this and you'll do it in 6 months, I sit there and say, holy cow, because we started in 2019 after the University of Nevada incident. That was the one that said, okay, we have enough data to go to the commission and say, we got to leak survey this stuff because this business district definition was really bothering us. So we went there, the commission approved the rule in 2020, and then we gave them till 2023 to be the first year in which you implement it. So they had 2 to 3 years to get Heath, their own crews. I got to buy equipment. I got to train people. I got to do all this. And, that can't be done in 6 months. And the fact that they were able to do it, we didn't miss any tiles, and we got good results, I think, it's the old thing. Preparation matters going into that. All right. Well, thank you.